Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So my name's Bree if you're new here. Thank you so much for all my new subscribers. I know you guys are very interested in law school, so I decided to make this video, highly requested video, about how to apply to law school, my tips and my stats. So I just graduated from college at the University of Central Florida, and I will be attending the George Washington University Law School in Washington, D.C. come fall. Hopefully with COVID, we're able to go to school. If not, we'll just have to do it online. The first thing you need to ask yourself is what schools you want to go to. So before I applied to law school, I told myself that I need to compile a list of schools that I wanted to go to. My list was actually 24 schools. Yes, I compiled a list of 24 schools, and I was like, okay, these are all the schools that I want to apply to, because my sense of mind was the more you apply to, the better, because you won't get accepted to every law school, so you need to have backups. A lot of people said that was excessive, but let me just tell you right now, I did not apply to 23 less law schools. I definitely cut down that list. And as you study and you get your actual LSAT score, you'll realize that you maybe shouldn't even apply because your numbers are not what the school is looking for. So when you apply to law school, you need to take your LSAT, which is the law school admissions test. And this test is weighted from a 120 to a 180. And a lot of schools, you need a certain score to get in. It's not necessarily that if you don't have that score you won't get in, but the higher the score the better. A lot of schools have an ABA 509 report. So for example, I'm going to George Washington. I would go to George Washington, in Google I would just put George Washington ABA 509, and it will tell me the school statistics. So if you go ahead and you Google the school you want to, and then after that put ABA 509, it'll tell you how many people matriculated in terms of race. It will tell you how many people applied to that school that year. It will tell you how many people were accepted. You hear this a lot, especially when you get to know applying to law school, that you need to look for the 25th, the 50th, and the 75. A lot of schools, if you had never heard this, like to preserve their medians. Yes, that is a real thing. Law schools want to preserve their median, which is a 50% LSAT percentile, excuse me. So for example, at George Washington, I believe it's 166. So they really want to make sure that at least half of their class has a 166 or higher, so that they can preserve their medians. There's also GPA. So GPA is also the 25th, the 50th, and the 75th. At GW, the GPA for the 50th, I believe, was a 3.73. So a lot of schools, in order to bump up in the ranks, they need to do a wide range of things, but some schools, what they do is they'll boost their medians. For example, UF, they've done that. They've boosted their medians, so they've literally climbed in the rankings, which is pretty cool. So you need an LSAT score and you need to have a GPA. Different schools have different requirements based on the ABA 509 report, which is what you should mainly use when you're looking to see maybe your chances of getting in. A good predictor, honestly it may not be accurate, but it can give you a general idea, is 7-stage predictor. If you put in your LSAT score, the month you'll apply in, and your GPA, it'll tell you basically your chances of getting in, and you'll also mark if you're an unrepresented minority. So you need to take the LSAT from 120 to 180. So for example, if GW's 50th percentile is a 166 and you got a 170 on the LSAT, but then their GPA is a 3.73 and you have a 3.25, it might depend on your story or your letters of recommendation or any experiences you've had in your life. So I think I'm the perfect example of a whole package. Really, the whole package really matters, not just your LSAT and your GPA, because I can say that my LSAT score was not amazing. My GPA was above their 50th, so I think that's what really helped me get into the school. And I've realized, so all the schools that I applied to, the ones that I was waitlisted at, neither my GPA or my LSAT score were at their 50th. So I got waitlisted at those schools. So I really believe that they're really trying to preserve their medians. So let's go back to the LSAT. When it comes to studying for the LSAT, I really recommend that you use Khan Academy. I definitely use Khan Academy, and it definitely has helped me. I would just like to say that a lot of people start off when they take the LSAT to take a practice test to see where you are, so that when you take your final practice test, you can see how much you've improved. I believe that truly helped me. Although when I first took it, I was completely clueless. I literally was starting circling stuff, especially the game section, because I had no idea what it was talking about. But for the games section, you definitely can improve. People say that's the easiest one to improve, but I guess it depends on each person. But I do have to say that I did start off in the 130s. Yes, I started off in the 130s in the LSAT. I definitely went up over 20 points, which is, I think, really good. And a lot of people say like it's hard to go up that many points, but I definitely believe it's doable. You just have to take the time. So I like to say that I'm not a good test taker, so I had to sit down and really try to plan out. I didn't even plan out that well because my LSAT score was not amazing. You need to sit down and think to how much time you'll need to take it. So that's why people say take a practice test, because then you'll see where you're at right now and what score you want, and then you can study in between. I took a prep course. It was called Test Masters. In my junior year, I will admit that I never did the homework, so no, I learned, but I didn't learn to my full potential, if that makes any sense, because I never did the homework. July, I started studying, and I bought the Logical Reasoning Bible, and I also bought this other book. I totally forgot. If I find it, I'll link it down below. And then I also used my Test Masters homework book, and I did the questions as extra questions, and then I also did Khan Academy. So basically, I ramped up my studying times 10, and I literally studied every single day, basically. I cried like almost every single day because I was just so frustrated because it took me so long to do games. I could do the games, but I couldn't do it in the amount of time that they needed. So it really stressed me out, and I'm just glad I never had to take the LSAT again. But if you're not a good tester like myself, I recommend taking a year at least to do it, especially if you want to go to a top tier school. If that doesn't matter to you, still take the time to study because you just never know. And the higher the score, the better, you know. The higher the score, if you're above their median or 75 percentiles in terms of GPA and LSAT, the more money you can receive in scholarships, which is literally amazing. I was lucky to get a scholarship also at GW. I'm really fortunate that I was able to receive that, but I know if my score was higher, I probably could have received more money. That's generally how it works. So back to point A, you need to take the LSAT and you need to get a good score. At least try to get above their 50th. Just because you did it doesn't mean you shouldn't apply to the school. Definitely not. I'm not saying it because you're not at the 50th you shouldn't apply, because I wasn't, but I still got in. And make sure that you have a good GPA also. So when you're applying to law school, you need to go to lsac.org, and that's where you register for the LSAT. The LSAT exam is $200, yes, $200 per exam, and that includes the writing exam. Now it is fully online. If you guys want a little bit of story time and exactly how to apply to CAS, like this video, because I definitely can tell you about my horrid experience of my first time taking it on the tablet and how I basically like had so much anxiety, and we can get it more into detail maybe in another video, but that was so tragic for me. I literally cried right after. And they had to like fix the issue. It was a nuisance, definitely. That's why I was skeptical about the iPad, but whatever, you know, online is online. So after you take the LSAT, you need to, or before, you make a CAS account, which is a credential assembly service, I believe. Yes, that's what it's called, and they call it CAS. I refer to it as CAS, so I'm gonna refer to it as CAS for the rest of the video. I said that like 3 times. So basically, CAS is basically your law school profile. So when you go on your LSAC account, you make your account, you register for the LSAT, and then you make a CAS account, you go ahead and you search schools. So when you search for the schools, you type in the schools that you want to, for example, Columbia, University of Miami, George Washington, and then you press apply. A lot of applications, I believe, open September 1st. Don't quote me on that, do your research. But I believe a lot of applications open up on that, around that time. And that's when you go in and you apply to the schools. Different schools have different requirements. And some schools let you write a diversity statement. Some schools, there's no need for that. Like for example, UM, you don't submit one, or FIU. I applied to those schools. Those are both schools in Florida. They're lower ranked, but they're still good schools. So I didn't have to use my diversity statement for that either. I will tell you in a little bit what that is. So after you add your schools and you press apply, you see the requirements. The main requirements all across are going to be your LSAT. You need an LSAT score to apply to a school. You could send your CAS report to schools with an LSAT score that you have and let them know that you want them to wait for your new score. Some schools say that you'll be at the front of the line when the new score comes out because they have everything else, but some people wait until they get that score just to make sure, because you're not going to know what your score is. But for me, I waited since I took the LSAT more than once. It's definitely okay to take the LSAT more than once, but I know some schools like NYU, I believe my friend told me that they average your LSAT score. Some schools do that, but it's not necessarily every school does. I don't really know of any other schools that do that. They just usually take your highest LSAT score. If you go around to networking events, they'll say, we'll take your highest LSAT score. So after you take your LSAT, like I said, you have the CAS account and you're looking at the school's requirement, you add the schools, and you need letters of recommendations. So I strongly encourage you to ask your professors before way before you want to submit your application, or tell them when you want to, or tell them a week before you want to, just in case they forget, because some teachers are busy and you're not on top of their mind. So you need to give them ample time so that they can write you a good letter of recommendation. In terms of your letter of recommendation, you need to ask them if they can write you a good letter of recommendation, not just a general one, a good one that can attest to your character, your personality, your resilience, or anything, or how they know you so well. A lot of schools get some generic letter that says Brianna was, for example, Brianna was a great student and she did well in my class. That says really nothing to the law school. They want to see people who are, you know, asking questions, know the professor in and out of the classroom, people who can really attest to your character. So you really want to go and ask to make sure teachers write a good recommendation letter, because in LSAC, you cannot see the letter they submit. So some professors will let you see the letter of recommendation, even though that's technically not allowed, but some you won't. So you have no idea what they wrote, and you just have to hope that they wrote something good. So you need to go to them and ask them to make sure that they can write a good letter of recommendation for you. I've sent my letters of recommendation people my resume, and I told them a little bit about myself and like my interests and what I want to do in law school. Some will ask for your resume and your personal statement. You need a resume. Yes, you definitely need a resume. Literally all of them require you to submit a resume. That's a basic thing that you must have. Make sure you have everything on there from your publications. You don't have to have publications. I definitely didn't. What you're involved in on campus, any honors you have. I put, for example, President's Honor Roll, Dean's List, etc., etc. A scholar, like a scholarship that I've had for basically all my life in college, for my time in college. Everything about me and any skills that I had. So you need a resume, like I said, you need an LSAT score, you need letters of recommendation, you definitely need a personal statement. So each school will have a different, basically broad question, or maybe multiple questions. Some schools have like 2 and you get to choose one. But for me, a lot of schools basically say the same question, so you can tailor each personal statement you have and tweak it to the school if you want. So for my personal statement, mine was 2 pages, double spaced. I know I'm pretty sure UF accepts up to 4 pages, so it depends on the school, but mine was just 2 pages double spaced, and I personalized each one for each school. A lot of people can say that you can mix this up. I've heard law school representatives literally say that people have submitted personal statements talking about George Washington when they're applying to FIU. So that doesn't show that, you know, you have attention to detail, which is extremely important in terms of law school. So you need to make sure that you save the files accordingly, but I definitely did that. I tailored them to my interest in what I was seeking in that school. Like, for example, George Washington, I talked about the immigration clinic. Immigration is something I'm interested in, so I made sure I went on their website, I did my research, and I talked about the schools and the programs that they offered, and I included that in my personal statement. In your personal statement, you need to make sure that you have a story, a touching story. They don't want to hear, I want to go to law school because I want to make money. That's so generic. Why don't you go be a banker? Why don't you go be a doctor? You can make money in that job too. Why do you want to be a lawyer? These are questions you need to ask yourself when you're writing your essay. Why do you want to be a lawyer? Why do you want to be a lawyer right now? And why is this school right for you? So if you ask yourself those questions and then you create an essay tailored to those questions, I think you'll have a really concrete and good personal statement. So like I said, you need an LSAT score, you need letters of recommendation. Most schools need at least 2, some schools a maximum of 2. So make sure that you have good people who can attest to good stuff about you. You need a resume, you need a personal statement. Now I'm going to talk about some extra things that I submitted. I submitted a diversity statement. So a diversity statement can talk about an experience or how you're resilient and stuff like that. It's basically this short thing, usually 250 words, that you can talk about and submit to the law school. So I definitely did that. I talked about my childhood and some experiences that I had, and how I showed grit and I was resilient, and I thoroughly enjoyed writing those things. Let's just say that I literally had more than 10 drafts of my personal statement, diversity statement. I literally edited that thing like every single day for like a month, and then I would take a break and I would have other people look at it. Make sure you have other people look at your writing. Not too many eyes, because too many opinions is not that good, but definitely look over it, because you're sending this to professionals, people who will look for, you know, detail. Is this a compelling story? Am I bored after reading the first line? Does it hook me in? Is this correct grammar? You definitely don't want to have grammar issues. Guys, after a diversity statement is an addendum, a law school addendum. So if you go around to top tier schools, like top 10, and you say you're gonna write an Lsat Addendum, how you're bad at test taking, for example, there's various topics you can write about, but I'm gonna touch upon a few. This is the first one I'm gonna touch upon, that you say that you're bad at test taking and this is not meant for you. Some schools won't recommend a law school addendum because basically you're saying that I didn't prepare enough. So the law school test is something that you need to prepare for and you need to take time. So I've heard from some law reps that if you're submitting like a lower LSAT score, that means that you didn't prepare that well. But your GPA can attest to basically your whole character throughout college. But it's hard to compare, for example, me, somebody from UCF who has a higher GPA, but then somebody who went to Harvard who may have a lower GPA but has more rigorous courses. So it really all depends on your major, your GPA, what school you went to, your letters of recommendation. Some people who are on the brisk or on the cusp, they'll definitely look to those letters of recommendations and see, am I compelled to take the student? Why should we let the student in our school? What can they contribute to our school? You know what I mean? So those are things that they definitely look for in your package. I believe that it's a whole package. My LSAT score was below the 50th. My GPA was above the 50th. I think I had a pretty good personal statement. I'm not sure, I don't want to brag. A diversity statement, pretty good too. I think I had a well-collected resume. At school, what I did, I went to the University of Central Florida. I was the president of a legal honor society for 2 years. I was re-elected successfully, so I'm really proud about that. And I was also a member of the Student Government Association at my school. I was an associate justice, so basically we're like the Supreme Court in our school. I was also part of another organization, and then I also did flag football. I also worked 2 jobs while I was in school, and I went to school and I made videos for fun. LOL. So that's the majority of my resume. I also, oh yeah, super important, I also interned at a law firm in the summer of my junior year at an immigration clinic back home, so I was able to get credit for that at school, so I also included that in my resume. I believe that's like the most of the things on my resume. And I also incorporated, I keep saying and then I also incorporated what languages I spoke. Let's do it again. We have our LSAT, we have our resume, we have our personal statement, we have our diversity statement, then we have the addendum. So back to the addendum. Sorry, I took a tangent about the resume, but your addendum, it definitely needs to be short. They don't want to read another story or another 3 pages. That's what your personal statement's for. It needs to be short, concise, and to the point. So for example, my addendum, I wrote about my low LSAC score, and then I wrote about how I was sick and something happened in my family that was really tragic actually, and thinking about it now just makes me want to cry. But these are experiences that make you resilient and like teach you to be grateful in life. But literally, I'm thinking about it now and I'm really sad. Okay, so I told the law school exactly what happened to me, how I was sick and stuff like that, how I suffered from something. I'm still have to deal with this now, and I just went to the doctor about it and they're like, you can deal with it or you can have surgery. And I was like, I think I'll just keep dealing with it until it worsens basically. And then I told them about the other experience that I had, and then I also told them that I'm not a good test taker. So I'm not gonna lie to you, when I took my ACT, I think I got a 17. A 17. What school? There's not a lot of schools that like that score per se. So the ACT is supposed to predict how successful you're going to be in college. So basically, my score basically told UCF, she's not going to do that well in college. But I was able to graduate in the top 10%. So the ACT failed to predict how successful I was going to be in college. So I tried to portray that same picture with the LSAT. The argument may not be as super strong, but you're able to use that. I've googled online how to use an addendum, and definitely this girl wrote a book. I don't remember her name. Her name is Anne, I believe. And she used to be an admissions rep, and she said you definitely could do that, but you need to say that although my score is this, I really don't believe that it could attest to how successful I'll be in law school, blah blah blah. I got a this on the ACT or SAT, but I still graduated with this at the top of my class. You can't really say, but I still have like a 3.4, because that's not necessarily awesome, if that makes any sense. You need to say something like you graduated at the top of your class or something like that, or you have an A GPA, and that it failed to predict your success in college, and you think that the LSAT would do the same. So I'm not a good test taker, facts are facts, but I still was able to go up, like I said, over 20 points on the LSAT, but my score was below their 50th. So I wrote an addendum for that, for all the schools that for literally all the schools I applied to. I was really lucky. So I took the LSAT twice. I took it in November and then I took it in January, I believe. And in November I took it and I got out of the LSAT and I called my mom and I was like, I failed. I was like, because of what happened to me also, it freaked me out. I think it hurt my nerves, and I've never really taken it on a tablet. So in the environment, this girl kept on kicking the table. So you know when you have many distractions and it's kind of hard for you to focus and it's a new environment, I truly believe it could affect your test score. So that's why they say to just stimulate the test experience, so when you go in on test day, you're not like, ah, like me. So after that, my score came out and I literally cried. I was like, whoa, I'm not gonna go to law school. Like, no law school will take me with the score. So I was like, you know what, let's go, we're gonna study. So I studied harder and my LSAT score went up like 10 points and I was like, oh my gosh. I literally cried because I was so stressed, and I called my parents and I told them, like, I might have to take a year off after college so I can get this LSAT score so that these schools can accept me, because I don't know, my score is not shaping up. And they're like, just keep studying, just keep studying. My friends helped me. My friend helped me so much and she pushed me, and my boyfriend helped me so much. He's like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And I just kept studying and studying and studying, and then my score went up so much and I was like, whoa. Literally, I had everything finished with my LSAT profile and I pressed submit in February. Yes, I applied to law school in February. I do not recommend that. I definitely recommend applying earlier, but I did apply to law school in February, and I literally heard back from GW like 3 weeks later. Or like 2 weeks later, literally. I heard back from GW in February and I applied in February. It was so weird, but I was extremely grateful. It was like the third school I heard back from and I was like, wow. And then they emailed me and said I got a scholarship, and I was literally, I couldn't fathom. Like, after the law school addendum, you might have to explain, for example, like a traffic ticket or any criminal charges or conduct related charges or offenses that happen at your school. It depends on the law school what they require, so you definitely have to look for that. So after you have your LSAT score and your letters of recommendation and your resume and your personal statement, your diversity statement, and an addendum if applicable, you need one more thing, which is your transcript. So surprise, LSAC recalculates your GPA. I know, super weird, but they try to do that to make everything even, because some schools offer A+ in classes, and so it makes your GPA higher than others, and some schools don't. So like, I don't think UCF has A+. None of my classes I took had A+, so I only could get an A. That's the max I could get. So for my GPA, when I had to pay for them to send my transcripts, my GPA came back the same. I was lucky, but I know someone who their GPA went down a little bit. So it literally depends. I couldn't tell you if your GPA is gonna fluctuate, but it shouldn't turn from a 3.7 to a 3.2. I don't think so. But don't quote me on that, because I don't know every single person who submitted their transcript. So you need to send your transcript, and if you've gone to multiple schools like I have, I've gone to FIU and then I went to UCF, and I went to Miami-Dade for a semester. You need to submit transcripts from all those schools. So just imagine all that money I had to spend on transcripts, because transcripts are not free. I think that cost me like $50 right there. No, I'm lying, like $40 right there. And then you also have to pay for the LSAT exam, which is $200, and then CAS you have to pay for, which is $195. Yes, extremely expensive. So for CAS also, you have to pay for each report to send to the school. So you're paying $195 to access it, but that doesn't mean that you're done paying for stuff. In order to apply to a school, you need to send a law school report. That's what it's called, or like a CAS report, and it costs $45 to send to each school. So for example, myself, I applied to 12 schools, so I paid $45 for each school so they can receive my CAS report, because it's fully online. And then after that, you need to pay for the application fee for the school. So for example, I think BU is like $90. So you have to pay $90 plus the $45 for the CAS report, and you had already paid $195 just to use the CAS system. So the CAS system basically sends them everything, literally your application, your addendum, your resume, your personal statement, your diversity statement, your letters of recommendation, and your transcripts. They literally send them everything that they need so they can evaluate your application, because everything's fully online. So I suggest going and seeing how much it costs to apply to that school and saving your money, because applying to law school, I really truly believe, can restrict a lot of people because it's extremely expensive. LSAC does offer a waiver, but let me tell you, you literally have to make like nothing for you to gain the waiver, they are super strict about it, and if you're denied, you could appeal it, and they may grant that for you, but it only offers 6 reports, so that means you can apply to 6 law schools, which I believe is a pretty good amount. But I applied to 12 schools. Save your money and maybe don't apply to as many schools. To each their own. Like I say, you don't have to apply to 20 schools. You can apply to 2, but I definitely don't recommend that. People say apply to Reaches, apply to Safety, and apply to Target. So I think I kind of did that, but you know, it was, you know, I applied to 12. So that is basically the gist of the CAS system and the LSAT score. Your LSAT score, if you want me to go into detail about the LSAT and what sections there are, and exactly how I studied, I kind of told you guys I used Khan Academy. I took a prep test, and I also went to the library every single Sunday and I took a practice test. I've taken over 20 practice tests and my score wasn't even at the median for GW. Can you believe this? I've taken over 20 practice tests. It's literally crazy. What was I saying? Yeah, I took a practice test every single Sunday, and I've taken over 20 practice tests, and let me tell you, my biggest mistake was not reviewing your test. You definitely need to review your questions, and if you can, I highly suggest going and see why that wasn't the answer. LSAT has a lot of trap answers, and if you go on YouTube and you look at some people who offer videos, you'll see that you'll get familiar with the trap answers, and you'll come to realize what the trap answers were. If I were to take the LSAT today, I definitely think I would score like a 120, which is the lowest you can get. But basically those are like my major stuff about like how to apply to law school. After you send in your CAS report, each school will email you and tell you if they receive your application, and then you just wait. They'll send you a login, and basically most schools have it. It's called a status checker, and you can check that status checker as much as you want. They definitely can see how many times you checked it, but they said that doesn't affect their decision. So I checked my status checker sometimes 3 times per day, and I got basically all my results in like 1 month. Some people are still waiting for results from today, and they applied to schools in like November. Some people it takes like 5 months plus, some people 3 months, some people 1 month. It literally depends on the school. So just be patient. It's really a long process, and they really consider the whole package. But basically that's the end of my video. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. This is a really long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you want me to go into specifics about anything that I mentioned, please comment down below, and I'll definitely make a specific video for you guys. I'm here to help you guys because I know applying to law school is extremely confusing. I hope this video was not confusing and you guys are able to see basically the gist of what you need to apply to law school, what things you need to do, and how you can be a competitive applicant, possibly doing all these things in terms of building your resume and having a compelling story. And I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys in my next video.